Kia ora tātou namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Nichecache. This is our big old podcast coming at you on Tuesday the 16th, and we have a big old National League final penalty shootout to discuss. We've also got a bit of Wellington Phoenix and Auckland FC. Wellington Phoenix women had another 1-0 away loss. We've got Kiwi-NRL train and trial lists have been reported, and we've also got the quick little Warriors depth chart that I whipped up, so we might talk about those later on in the podcast. We have Breakers still winning and losing games, so we'll update the topsy-turvy Breakers soon, but we'll start with lots of cricket, I believe. And what I thought was a pretty monumental Blackcaps test win. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but if you're dealing in having your 10th best seamer playing test cricket and then you lose another seamer mid-test and you still win the test quite convincingly, I think it was a fantastic test win for the Blackcaps against the West Indies in Wellington. And this is the thing I've been thinking about. I've got Michael Ray roughly as the 10th best test seamer for the Blackcaps right now. In no particular order. We might need to update the order soon. We got Matt Henry, we got Kyle Jamieson, Will O'Rourke, Smith, Ben Sears, Jacob Duffy, Zach Folks, Matt Fisher, Blair Tickner. That's 9 Blackcaps test seamers who are realistically in the test mixer right there. Michael Ray is number 10. And obviously in a game of cricket, you're carrying a couple of seamers. So it's pretty easy to get to number 10, as opposed to who's our 10th best wicketkeeper. That's a different conversation. But my question to you is, similar position, what would happen if the All Whites were working with their 10th best centre-back?
Right. Well, let's flesh this out. We know who the top 3 are. That is Tyler Bindon, Michael Boxall, and the other one, Finn Sermon. Nando Peinecker, George Stanger. They're regularly in squads. Probably got to say Tommy Smith is still on that list. Bill Tuiloma is a centre-back option. He's mostly playing at right-back, but he can play centre-back. Probably his better position if he actually gets to play there regularly for a club team. So what's that, 7, I think we're up to there. Where would we go from there?
Well, we don't need to break it all down.
Isaac Hughes?
Yeah, so
it might be Matt Sheridan. It might be what we saw from the Wellington Phoenix on the weekend. You know, Matt Sheridan, Lucas Kelly-Heald, and Jaden Smith. That actually might be about where that would get to.
Right,
so Phoenix, they didn't win.
So would you be expecting the All Whites to win with their 10th best centre-back?
No.
Righto, so let's go tall black. So let's say the wing position, because you need a couple.
That's the wrong one. They've only got like one player there.
Okay, well, let's...
Centre position is their best position. So if we do that, we're still going to run out before we get to 10, and it's going to prove the point.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like you need a couple in each team to have the seamer correlation. But the point remains, if we're dealing in the 6th, 7th, 8th point guard or guard for the Tall Blacks, they're going to struggle. Football Ferns, if we're going 10th in any position for the Football Ferns, they're going to struggle. If we're going 10th, the 10th best seamer for the White Ferns, they're going to lose. That's just a fact. The only thing I can think about is the Kiwis and their middle forward stocks. If we go middle forwards for the Kiwi Ferns, they're losing if we're going 8, 9, 10. The Kiwis, though, well, Griffin Neame and Leo Thompson weren't even in the current squad for the Pacific Championship. So that's, to me, that reminds me of why I'm positive about the Kiwis, because that is some fantastic depth. If we're going 10th winger or 7th centre, yeah, we're going to have issues. All of which is to say the Blackcaps just won a test with their 10th best seamer doing a job, and that guy is Michael Ray, who, let's say, conservatively bowls 136.5 kilometers both per hour, and he swings the ball both ways. So, to me, that puts into context how epic this test win was, and I think a lot of people, now that we're a few days removed for it, a lot of people are taking it for granted, which is crazy, because a New Zealand cricket team just won a test with their 10th best seamer doing a job. But it also needs to put into perspective that Michael Ray is now a test seamer. He's there. He did his job, he took his opportunity, and Michael Ray's not going anywhere. This dude is experienced, he's mature, he's got a lot of cricket played for Otago, then Canterbury. He's a good one-day bowler as well. So now that Michael Ray is the 10th best seamer, has got his opportunity, he did his job, he has proven that he's a fairly handy test seamer. That dude's not going anywhere. So now everyone needs to perform. Everyone needs to step up. And these are the situations that we're seeing play out for the Blackcaps with so much depth. It's the same thing with the wicketkeeper situation. You can debate Tom Blundell versus Mitch Hay. Fantastic debate. I don't really care. Who's going to score the runs? Mitch Hay got his opportunity. He scored some runs. Now we know Tom Blundell has the right of replies. Shout out to the newsletter, thenichecache.substack.com. And Blundell has earned, as in keeping with most Kiwi sports cultural values, he has earned the right to reply to Mitch Hay. If Blundell doesn't perform, that's probably the end of his test career. And that's all good, because Mitch Hay's almost averaging 50 in first-class cricket, scored 61 on test debut. That's another theme that we're seeing with the Blackcaps, as new players perform straight away. Okay, let's say Blundell's out of the mix, Mitch Hay's out of the mix. Well, Max Chu just scored 150 odd for Otago. And I have said it before, say it again, I don't really see a whole lot of difference between Mitch Hay and Max Chu. So everyone's looking at Mitch Hay, oh, he's fantastic emerging wicketkeeper for the Blackcaps. We got another one. Max Chu is also fantastic. Kind of threw a lot of stuff at you there, but I think the 10th best situation is very important for reminding us to be grateful for such a performance from the Blackcaps. But every series or every opportunity we have to see the Blackcaps play, something new is thrown at us at the moment. And I will say this is also part of the Rob Walter coaching era, so it's cool that these things are happening at the start of his tenure. But T20, well, suddenly Tim Robinson's one of our best T20 batters. That wasn't the case a year ago. Suddenly Jacob Duffy is genuinely a Blackcaps legend. And we'll update these stats after the second test. Jacob Duffy has the lowest test bowling average for Blackcaps with 10 plus wickets. Every Blackcaps test bowler who has taken 10 plus wickets in their career, Jacob Duffy has the lowest average. He has the 5th lowest average for Blackcaps with 30 ODI wickets. And he has the 2nd lowest for Blackcaps with 30 plus T20 international wickets. Jacob Duffy is averaging 17 in test bowling and T20 international bowling. That wasn't on my mind a year ago. Right,
well, a year ago, it was Will O'Rourke doing the same stuff. You know?
Exactly. And now he's out injured. Everyone else is out injured, and the Blackcaps just won a test. Like, there's so much interesting stuff coming out of these performances, and I don't think we can assume anything. Literally, because, like, I mean, it could be a week ago, it could be 2 weeks ago, or say a month ago, Michael Ray was not in my Blackcaps mixer. Now he is, and we have to keep putting him in the mixer until he sucks for the Blackcaps. And I do not really see that happening, because unlike a younger seamer, maybe someone like Zach Folks, who's still learning a lot of things about the cricketing grind, Michael Ray has been around for a long time, so he's got the fitness, he's got the stamina, he's got the mental fortitude, and now we've seen he's got the skills and styles to be effective at this level.
And having gone through this with Will O'Rourke taking wickets pretty much straight away, and he probably was... I don't know if it was across all the formats the same way as Duffy did, but certainly did in his test career. He was just taking bundles from the get-go. So he probably actually did have that best average with 10 plus wickets at the point in which he first got to that sort of mark, before Duffy did. And Duffy's averages will level out over time, but that's not the point. The point is that he's come in fully formed to all three formats. And having seen O'Rourke do that, having seen Duffy do that, having now seen Michael Ray step up and take, I think 3 wickets in each innings of his debut. Having seen various other examples, Mitch Hay being one in the last one, of Blackcaps coming in and being pretty successful straight away, like immediately. There's a good chance that we move on to number 11 next, and Christian Clark gets a debut in the third test, because obviously Blair Tickner's not going to be playing that one, and they've called up an extra spinner. And maybe Ajaz Patel gets that nod. That'll be one of those, like, check the pitch on the day and see how it goes. But I mean, we don't stop at 10, right? We can go deeper if we need to, and they might need to for the third test.
Yeah, I don't think Christian Clark will play.
I suspect it'll be Ajaz, seeing as how he was doing like media work as well as being called up. That seems to be a bit of a tip, but it's a possibility. And if it did happen, then chances are he'll probably come in and take some wickets himself. Either that, or he can just enjoy the popcorn on the sideline.
Well, either that or he scores runs, because he scores runs. That's also what he does. No, I think Ajaz Patel will play, because we know spin is a major factor in New Zealand cricket at the moment. Say it again, said it before, say it again. Every team has a frontline spinner. Some teams have 2 frontline spinners. Auckland are playing with Rohit Gulati and Adi Ashok. And at very least, every team has 2 spin options. So that's what's happening in the Plunket Shield this season. The Blackcaps have played with a spinner in both tests there, Michael Bracewell, and then Glenn Phillips. And now they go to the most spinny pitch in New Zealand, which is the Bay Oval, where Mitchell Santner averages like 20 or something like that. And we're only in this position because Santner's injured. And so Santner would be playing this test and these tests, I believe, if he was fit and available. Like, Ajaz Patel comes in, and now I'm curious, can we have a test team with Glenn Phillips, Michael Bracewell, and Ajaz Patel in the same team? That's a possibility. And then you just have Duffy and Ray. Like, I think, like, Zach Fox, maybe just give him a break, because he's played a lot of all format cricket. So is Jacob Duffy, but I think Jacob Duffy, again, he's older, so he's over 30 years, so he's got that experience, he's got the miles and the fitness to work through this. But I think, folks, it might be a good opportunity to give him a break, especially because the Bay Oval pitch might be a bit drier and a bit dusty. And that's the thing, like, we've been talking about spin being a factor in New Zealand for a couple of seasons, and now we're halfway through December and it's been stinking hot and sunny, so it's only going to be even more spinny. But you're going to see a Blackcaps team, I believe, with at least 2 spinners for this third test, whether it's Patel and Phillips, but then you can also get, because then you're selecting another seamer in that situation. But you could also get super duper funky and go Bracewell, Phillips, and Patel with 2 seamers. And of course, we've seen the young seamer Daryl Mitchell do pretty well at the Basin Reserve as well. So there's a lot of options, a lot of optionality and verticality, and those type of buzzwords you hear about in sports coverage heading into this Bay Oval test. And if Ajaz Patel comes in and takes a wicket, then 12 test bowlers would have taken a wicket this year for the Blackcaps. And Bracewell's the only one who's averaging over 21 at the moment for test bowling for the Blackcaps this year. He's got one wicket.
How far over 21?
He's averaging 195 for the wicket takers. So he's up struggle street. Zach Fox is 20.5. So then we have 9 other test bowlers who have taken a wicket and are averaging below 20. Again, when have we seen a Blackcaps team do that? Never. So let's not take this shit for granted. Let's embrace a bit of gratitude. And that goes to the other major theme for the Blackcaps at the moment. They have used 20 plus players in each format this year, which again seems crazy, especially because the Blackcaps have winning records in each format. So the smallest test playing nation in the world has used 20 plus bowlers, 20 plus players in each format. They're 3-0 in tests, 17-3 using 24 different players in ODIs. 20 players in the test group, could be 21 if Ajaz Patel plays, 12-6 in T20 internationals using 21 players. So by the end of this test series, it could be 21 players in all 3 formats with winning records. Again, when has that happened for New Zealand cricket before? Never. So let's not worry about Kyle Jamieson still being injured, because we don't need to. All we need to do is celebrate the guys who are there, focus on the players who are being selected, who are available, and because those are the dudes who are in a position to score the runs, take the wickets, execute runouts. Christian Clark had a runout in that test, and that was a nifty bit of fielding. The Blackcaps had a couple of runouts as well, and that's the other thing that I'm impressed about with the Blackcaps is we've got Rob Walter as coach. The 20 plus players overlaps with the end of the Gary Stead era, but Blackcaps culture, Kiwi cricket fundamentals, getting the best out of players, and performing under adversity. Like, these are Kiwi cricket values that have now been shown early in the Rob Walter era using a wider group of players, which means that these values run deep, they're strong, they're hearty. And one more thing about Rob Walter, the guys who have come in have had a bit to do with Rob Walter. Like Jacob Duffy is now firing. He knows Rob Walter from Otago. Michael Ray knows Rob Walter from Otago. Blair Tickner knows Rob Walter from CD. Some of these things make a lot of sense when we're thinking, how do these players step up with the new coach? Well, Ajaz Patel knows Rob Walter pretty well as well from their time at CD. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ajaz Patel comes in, does his job at a very high level. And again, that's another strong indicator for the Blackcaps culture and where they're at this stage of the Rob Walter era.
Well, I know a lot of people, for no real logical reason, just didn't like Gary Stead. That didn't seem to be a particularly unpopular thing when he stepped aside, even though super successful team the entire way through. Maybe one tournament blip throughout that entire span, just that previous T20 World Cup. But
there was the World Test Championship, the second one.
Yeah.
For me, that's relevant because that's, like you said, with the T20 World Cup, that's where they fell out of the top 4.
Mm.
But to your point, the Blackcaps were a certified top 4 team in the world across all formats. Again, don't take that for granted because it's not normal, with Gary Stead as coach, and now that seems to be continuing with Rob Walter.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that if you didn't know, you don't read the news and you didn't know Gary Stead had stepped aside and Rob Walter had taken over, there's no discernible, you wouldn't understand, you wouldn't have guessed it if you didn't already know it. There's no discernible difference in how the Blackcaps were going before and how they're going now. There might be a few tweaks on the ground level, I'm sure. I'm sure Rob Walter sure there are things he does that are different to what Gary Stead did, but for the viewer at home, for the viewer on the banks, it's the same old Blackcaps, and that is a good thing. Like, that is not that's just a continuation of a team that punches above their weight consistently, which maybe isn't even a fair thing to say. It's like punch above our weight in terms of the size of the country. I don't think in terms of the talent of the players, that's not punching above their weight. We just got a good set of players, and it runs a lot deeper than the first 11, as we've just been talking about. But no, like there's no tangible shake-up or anything like that. Rob Walter has come in extremely smoothly and just carried this team on the trajectory they were on. And I think that in itself, especially because a lot of coaches don't really, a lot of coaches in sports seem to come in with an ego and want to shake things up, whether it needs to be done or not, and want to like implant their own, their footprints all over the building, all over the grass. Like
Shane Flanagan.
Well, that one was necessary. Whether they're the right footprints is another matter, but someone had to do something. But yeah, Walter's it's just been such a smooth start to his tenure, and I think that deserves to be commended as well.
Let's get a bit of mindfulness to continue the not taking it for granted, taking a bit of gratitude in our medicine cuppy.
Yeah, how about a bit of open mindfulness from the, I don't even know how you describe the music of Frank Zappa, Freaky, the freak rock pioneer. Yes, open mindfulness from Mr. Frank Zappa. A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it isn't open.
I was wondering, like, is open mindfulness a new category for you, or is...
No, just a pun.
Right, okay, so it is, having an open mind does definitely help you out. And now I've got an open mind as to who's in the Blackcaps these days. I was closed-minded before, and now I've seen Michael Ray look like a test bowler. And it's like, well, this is the new reality. So yes, open-minded, do be open-minded and embrace all that the world has to show you, because other people are smarter than you. Mother Nature is smarter than you. You are a bit dumb, I'm a bit stupid, and we need to embrace learning from others, and not even just learning, but just absorbing information and bits and pieces with an open mind.
Yeah, not getting stuck in your opinions as they become outdated, even if they were true to begin with, those kind of things. And then I guess also in the inverse, that quote is it's also a pretty severe warning about the dangers of closed-mindedness, right? Because your parachute doesn't open, you're going to splat. It's not just saying you're gonna have a bad day. It's saying you're gonna have the worst day possible. You're gonna land on some jagged rocks or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, parachutes work better when they're open. Apparently, mines do too.
Sliding back to the Plunket Shield, we've got games ongoing, but we also have a result. Canterbury have absolutely smoked Auckland in Christchurch. I will say, the ongoing games, Curtis Heafy keeps scoring runs. So he is doing very, very well. Mr. Young Heafy, let's get his scores confirmed, because Curtis Heafy is one of the best young batters in Aotearoa. And he, along with Max Chu, Central Districts versus Otago is happening right now. So Max Chu scored a big old century. But Curtis Heafy, first innings, 65 runs, and he is currently on 68 not out. And CD are following on. So first innings, Dean Foxcroft got 94 runs, and Curtis Heafy was the only other dude with runs. This innings, Heafy is not out, Brad Schmullian got 78, and Dane Cleaver is not out as they keep battling. Ahead of day 4, I think they've got a small lead, but that is to say Curtis Heafy, who we've been tracking all year, having a fantastic year for New Zealand Day, bit of T20 cricket for Central, and fantastic in the Ford Trophy. Now he's got back-to-back 50s in the same game. This dude is a run-scoring phenom, but he does score his runs differently. Curtis Heafy is a slower run scorer. He's more of a classical T20, not test, but like long form opener. Whereas Reece Matayu scores his runs fairly quickly relative to Heafy and relevant to the format. He scored 147 for Canterbury in this big win, strike rate of 83, which is pretty damn quick for Plunket Shield runs. And this is Reece Matayu, who's averaging 55.8. He has 7 century, well, not just 7 centuries, because I'm sure he's got a couple double centuries. High score of 249. I think he scored that last season. He has 7 scores over 100 and 7 scores over 50. As a 24-year-old who's played 23 first-class games. So Reece Matayu finally scored some runs, and it was a big 147. But of course, Henry Nicholls as well, 226 runs, fairly good. He's having a fantastic summer. That was the foundation of Canterbury's win. Obviously, their bowlers were fantastic, but also Simon Keane, 52 runs in the first innings, 152 runs in the second innings, 152 runs with a strike rate of 99. And that was similar to what Simon Keane was doing in South Africa for New Zealand A, batting down the order. He kept scoring runs when no one else was scoring runs, and he's got a first-class batting average probably before this knock of 31 and a first-class bowling average of 30.8. So Simon Keane, we can add him to the list of really impressive emerging all-rounders, of which we have plenty. And that includes Cameron Paul. And this is the funky thing. This is why I wanted to bring up this game, not only because you had wrinkles like Simon Keane doing well. Rohit Gulati must have taken a few wickets. Usually does. Only 1 wicket for Rohit in this game. But Auckland are a fascinating team when we're talking about Blackcaps depth, because their century makers in Plunket Shield this season: Bevan Jacobs, Simon Keane, Lachlan Stackpole, Dale Phillips. All really good young cricketers. Again, Rohit Gulati is their best bowler this season, 22 wickets in 4 games. That tells you about the spin, but they've also got Simon Keane, 14 wickets at 24, Jock McKenzie, 9 wickets at 28, Ryan Harrison's having a good all-round summer, Adi Ashok is doing his job as well. So there's a lot to learn about Kiwi cricket through that Auckland team. But then you go Canterbury, not only did they have Cameron Paul, so that's the other thing about going back to Michael Ray. Michael Ray was always a factor for Canterbury. Even when you got Henry, O'Rourke, Jamison, Sodhi, all these Blackcaps bowlers coming in and out, Ray was always a factor. So that gives you an indication of like how he's viewed and what he's capable of. But now Canterbury needed some more bowlers. So they have Fraser Sheet and Sean Davey, who are part of that fantastic Canterbury seam bowling unit with Ray, with Angus McKenzie. Now Cameron Paul has come into that team. He took a few wickets in this game, but we've also got Cullen Cameron. I don't think Canterbury names get any more Canterbury than that, but he was born in London, so how about that? He took 2 wickets in each innings. I mean, he looks all right. Big, tall lad, bowling pretty quick. But Cameron Paul is just one of many excellent young cricketers you need to learn about. He's 20 years old and he's already got 23 wickets at an average of 21.7. In this game against Auckland, big win for Canterbury, 3 wickets, 2 wickets, and that comes after he scored 91 runs against the West Indians in a tour game. He's averaging 18.5 with the bat in first class cricket. That 91 wasn't part of his first class record, so he doesn't have a 50 plus score yet, but he does have a 50 plus score. So shout out to him, because I sees here, I recognise it. But he also didn't take any wickets in that game against the West Indians, so we can conveniently use that in our favour, because he's got wickets in 7 consecutive innings, excluding that game against the West Indians where he didn't take a wicket. This season, Cameron Paul has 5 wickets and an average of 22. That is the same, like, here we go. So Kyle Jamieson, he also played 1 game for Canterbury and he took 5 wickets. It was at an average of 13, but Kyle Jamieson, Cameron Paul, they've both played 1 game. Jamieson bowled 29.3 overs, Cameron Paul bowled 31 overs, similar amount of overs, same amount of wickets. So we need to watch out for Cameron Paul on the rise. And along with Sean Davey, who's one of the really good domestic seamers, obviously Michael Ray wasn't playing this game. What's this dude's name? Cullen Cameron and Cameron Paul played decent roles, because Cullen Cameron took 2 wickets in each innings. They played decent roles in a big win over Auckland. An Auckland team stacked with young players of note, but the 2 Camerons took wickets in both innings. Reece Murray scored 147. Jesse Frew, another young wicketkeeper for Canterbury, stepping in for Mitch Hay. He was playing wicketkeeper in this game. So a lot of young talent on display, none of which was as good as Henry Nicholls. And again, if we're thinking about the Blackcaps, like, yes, we talk about young cricketers all the time, a lot of great young talent, but it's the older dudes who set the standard, keep the bar high. Anyone trying to get into the Blackcaps needs to be better than Henry Nicholls is right now. And no one's better than Henry Nicholls in domestic batting right now. So I wouldn't expect any young batters to come into the team, and that's all right, because as we've talked about, that Blackcaps batting unit is fairly strong. Even though they didn't dominate the test against the West Indies, I'm not worried, not fussed, because a lot of those dudes are averaging around 40 in test cricket. So they'll find a way, they'll score some runs, and we'll keep moving and grooving. But I did love that Canterbury versus Auckland game as a snapshot of where we are in Kiwi cricket.
Yeah, and Reece Murray hadn't been scoring runs up until this point. He'd really had like a tough start to the summer, and then reminds everyone what he's capable of with a big 140 odd. Scored at a good clip too. I watched your highlights of that, which was just like the Reece Murray experience is great, because he's scoring all around the wicket. He's hitting beautiful drives down the ground. He's getting the sweep shot out when the spinners come in there. He can cut. You know, he's just a very, like, he's a disciplined batter, but he's also got all the shots, you know, and he just, the volume of runs that he scores is amazing. But then, like you say, there's also Curtis Heaphy, who continually, I think might even be younger than Muddy Away, and continually scores runs himself. Like, these are exciting things, let alone get into like the Cameron Paul side with the all-rounders and Simon Keane with the all-rounders. And, you know, this is the foundation from which all the guys we're talking about at the start, when in a Blackcaps context, you know, Michael Ray being the most recent of them, who come into the Blackcaps and do very well straight away. Like, this is the foundation of that. This is sort of like the boiling pot, the melting pot, whatever, where these players stem from, where they learn their game. And the same things that we're seeing at a Blackcaps level, we are seeing at the level below that as well, in Plunket Shield and Ford Trophy. We'll see it in Super Smash soon enough. Like, this is where those guys come from, and it's not a coincidence, you know. It's just natural progression. We got good cricketers, They come in and do well at this level. They move up to the NZA stuff. They do well there, as you're saying. Like there's mentioned, and there's tour games as well, like with Cameron Paul, but Simon Keane scoring runs in the New Zealand A stuff. Heafy and Muddy have had good innings for those teams as well, you know. And then you move up to the Blackcaps and you come in and you get your chance there when it happens to arrive, and players are ready to perform straight away, even if they are on the younger side. It's good stuff. It's a nice alignment.
The HBJ Shield rolls along. We had a double banger of games this weekend. Most teams won both games, I think. Well, not that doesn't make sense. ND had 2 wins over Auckland. Otago had 2 wins over CD. Wellington had 2 wins over Canterbury, which means ND and Wellington are top of the table. ND's top of the table by themselves. Then Wellington, then Auckland, then CD, Otago, and Canterbury. Canterbury are 1-5. Otago, their first 2 wins of the season this weekend, they are 2-4. Best or leading run scorer in the HBJ Shield is 19-year-old Emma McLeod. She has 3 50-plus scores in a row. I think the best player is Jess Kerr, and I think the best batter, just straight up, is Caitlin Gurry for ND, who seems to be too good for the White Ferns. There are some younger batters like Emma McLeod who are doing pretty well, just to balance out Caitlin Gurry being too good for the White Ferns. Saffron Wilson is 4th for runs. She's got 2 50s. The only batters who have 3 50-plus scores in the HBJ Shield so far are Emma McLeod and Caitlin Gurry. Saffron Wilson has 2 50s. Izzy Sharp scored her first 50 of the season last weekend. Prue Catton has 2 50s as well. All 4 of them, or all 3 of them, plus Emma McLeod, are obviously averaging over 30, doing pretty well. They've all got 190 plus runs. They've all got strike rates over 75, so that's pretty damn good. Then we get to the Wellington pair of Jess Kerr and Zara Jetley. Jess Kerr is averaging 33 with the bat and 12 with the ball. Zara Jetley's averaging 41 with the bat and 16 with the ball. So Jess Kerr, to me, she is the most dominant women's domestic player of the last 2 seasons. With her all-round performances for Wellington. And Zara Jetley's following her development arc, because Jess Kerr, last season especially, she played a bigger role with the bat for Wellington. And now we're seeing Zara Jetley bat 3, bat 4, and do pretty well. As I said, she's averaging 40. But Zara Jetley is also one of 3 bowlers who have taken 14 wickets. The other is Jess Kerr. And then we've got Elizabeth Kaur. So shout out to Zara Jetley, because I've said it before, say it again, I do think she is a very interesting player to watch out for, competing with Eden Carson, but we've had news that Eden Carson's out injured for a while, so maybe Zara Jetley will get an opportunity. Excellent fielder, really good off spinner, and now she's playing a bigger role with the bat. They both have 14 wickets, the 2 Wellingtonians, and then we've got Elizabeth Kaur, who has only played 3 games of domestic cricket. 4 games of domestic cricket, and she has wickets in every game, plural. She has 4 wickets in 3 of her 4 games. The other game, she took 2 wickets. That was the Saturday game in the loss against Otago. Then she bounced back and took her regular 4 wickets. She has 14 wickets, averaging 10.6. So I mentioned the other 2 Wellington bowlers, 14 wickets, averaging 12, 16. Kaur, who I know nothing about, she is averaging 10.6 in the HBJ Shield. I think she's a spinner, an off spinner. So she's doing very, very well to start her domestic cricket career. The 2 bowlers I want to focus on are the 2 ND seamers, Kaylee Knight and Lucy Boucher. And when we're thinking ND, top of the table, they're the only team with 5 wins. They're the only team to lose 1 game, obviously. They've got Caitlin Gurry second for runs. Nancy Patel had a good weekend. Jess Watkins is always really good. I think Holly Top is one of the best emerging wicketkeepers in Aotearoa. But then you go to their seam attack, and like 2 seasons ago, it was all about Marama Downs, the wobbler. She wobbles that seam, she nips it both ways. She went through the gate of Maddie Green, which was an excellent wicket on the weekend. But right now, Kaylee Knight is in phenomenal form. 13 wickets at an average of 11.6. And also I do want to make sure we shout out Lucy Boucher, the other seam offendee, because she has been really good this season as well. 7 wickets at an average of 14. As like, Kaylee Knight is averaging less than Jess Kerr, who's averaging 12. Lucy Boucher's in the same ballpark with 14. And they are doing fantastic mahi for ND in the HBJ Shield. Both seem to be bowling decent pace, good bounce. And they are the type of bowlers the White Ferns need the most, because a lot of these other bowlers, like Jess Kerr, is the best at this type of bowling, the massive hooping in swinger to the right-handers. And that is the status quo for women seamers in Aotearoa. Emma Black, a very good seamer for Otago, who has been on the fringe of the White Ferns, she does the same thing. So you don't really need to select Emma Black with Jess Kerr. Missy Banks is pretty similar. And a lot of these seamers do bowl the in-swing to the right-handers, whereas Kaylee Knight, she just looks to be, her and Boucher seem to be bowling at least straight, let alone getting a bit of outswing. And that's probably because there's enough force going through their action, which means they're bowling decent pace and getting the ball down the other end of the pitch. And we need more of those type of bowlers. The Molly Penfolds, not necessarily Molly Penfold, but that type of bowler doing stuff in the HBJ Shield. So shout out to the one-day competition in Aotearoa, and shout out to Auckland City. The dynastic football team in Aotearoa. I can't believe I was doubting their dynasty status a while ago. Because I think they won the National League last year, didn't they?
They did. Won in extra time against Birkenhead last year, won on penalties against Wellington Olympic this year. So very close games in the finals, but they've also and I think the year before that, they lost to Wellington Olympic in the final. Year before that, they beat Wellington Olympic in the final. So since the National League sort of, its most recent shake-up, which we've got one more year of before it goes into its next shake-up, they've made the final every time. Like that's, well, what did I say? Is that four years in a row they've made the National League Grand Final, and they've won 3 out of those 4. And this is the team who was the dynastic side before that, when it was more of like a franchise type league. Like they were the dominant side then through the previous decade. They're not as far out in front as they have been in the past. Like it was a very competitive season. They only just they had to win their last 3 games in a row to make it into the final. Wellington Olympic also had to win in the last game to get there. Miramar Rangers ran it very close. Western Springs ran it very close. It was a very competitive league, and this is after Auckland City. They only qualified for National League on goal difference, finishing 4th in the Northern League. So there was a bit after the game where Mario Illich is being interviewed, captain of Auckland City, had a fantastic game in the final, had a fantastic season, really. And he's talking about, in his giddiness of having just won a title, but he's like, they counted us out in the Northern League, they counted us out in the National League. I'm thinking well, you finished fourth by goal difference in the Northern League, so they're probably right to count you out. You didn't win it. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, you won't catch me like that in the National League context. I'm not counting Auckland City out at any point. I've been sort of writing this all the way through the season because they had a bye first week, and then the second week they lost 3-0 away to Birkenhead, which is sounds like a terrible result. They did have like they sort of boosted their under 20s minutes to give the last year where that's relevant because they're changing that rule, thankfully. To give a starting debut to Orlando Thorpe, who's, I don't know, 18, 19 years old or something like that. Probably, I'm assuming, to get some under 20s minutes off the board nice and early in their first game of the season, and he got sent off after 30 minutes, so that didn't work. But also that puts context into the fact they lost 3-0. It's like, yeah, they played an hour with 10 men. That's tough at any point. They were already 1-0 down, I think, at that point, but it's not like that was a game where it was like toe to toe and they were thoroughly outplayed. Like they were down to 10 men for most of it. And Thorpe also, to his credit, has come back and had a few really nice little cameos, including in the final. That's actually him over my shoulder, the number 6, jumping up and fist pumping in the air. He's the guy who got sent off on debut, but came back into the team towards the end of it and had a few nice little spots off the bench. Went very close to scoring a free kick a couple weeks ago. So like scraped into the National League, but it's also this is Auckland City, and you don't count them out at any point. For the last few years, it's always felt like, yeah, everyone else has caught up to them, but this is the team that always scores like a 90th minute equalizer or winner when they need one. This is the team that always pulls off that 3 or 4 game winning streak when they need one. This is the team that turns up in grand finals and plays like they not just that they belong there, they deserve to win, but that they're going to win. Like it's not even a question in their mind. Those are dynastic things. So while they're not like, they don't go out there and thrash teams anymore, they're still the team that just like knows how to get those results, knows how to own those big moments. And that is why they continually win all the time. And this is maybe like, I don't think this is their most glorious National League title by any stretch. I mean, it's, they needed a 120-minute plus equalizer in extra time to avoid defeat. His goalkeeper made a brilliant save just before that. It's like, even in the penalty shootout, they were on the brink of defeat there. They were like one penalty away if Alex Solomon had scored his Wellington Olympic other champions. Like there was nothing between these teams here. But that's a common thread with Auckland City. Even when it's very close, even when it's bang even, somehow they always seem to, more often than not, be the team that comes out on top. But yeah, not their most glorious title, but maybe their most legendary when you consider that this was their 44th game of the year, when you consider that they've played, in 2 different instances, they had to play a game in one competition while they were also playing a game in another competition. Like there was a game while they were away at the Oceania Champions League. They played 2 games on the same day. So their first team's over in Oceania, with Solomon Islands playing there. And then they've got a team with whoever was left over because they couldn't get leave from work or whatever because they're saving up their annual leave to go to America later in the year for the Club World Cup. They then had to play a game against Western Springs back in the Northern League at the same time, on the same day. 2 different squads for the same club. Also, while they were away preparing for the Club World Cup in America, they had to play their Chatham Cup game, which basically was just their under-23s team had to go out and represent them for that. So I think they went through 45 different players over the course of this year. Admittedly, like, maybe 10, 11, 12 of those are those under-23s type players that just popped up here or there, not really part of the full squad, but still, like, those guys got minutes during the season. I think in the National League, it was more like 20, 21, 22, 23, something like that players used, which even then, for the National League, is quite a lot. 44 games across, I think it was 6 different competitions. You got Northern League, Chatham Cup, you got the Club World Cup, you got the Oceania Champions League, National League, you got the Intercontinental FIFA thingy-majiggy as well, which was played in Egypt. So they played games in Africa, they played games in North America, they played games in Solomon Islands and New Zealand. They also played some friendly games, because if you look at the Auckland F's, I did the thing, the Auckland City sort of media write-up stuff on their website, which like the only National League club that actually has a properly maintained website that does match reports and stuff like this, they're talking about 50 plus games this year, which is, they're counting friendlies at that point, which I don't think you should be counting friendly games because they're friendly games, they're not real games. But some of those were played in the UAE on the way to Egypt for the Intercontinental whatever FIFA thingy majiggy tournament, the obsolete tournament that's still happening, even though they now had replaced it with the Club World Cup. That's an extra continent. So we're talking about like they've played games in Oceania, Africa, Asia, North America. This is an amateur team. Like these guys aren't getting paid to do this. They're taking time off work. Oh, well, I'm sure they're getting match fees or something like that. I'm sure there's a nice little bonus in there for going to the Club World Cup. But I mean, it's insane stuff that they should be asked to play as many games as they have. Obviously, you're not going to turn those opportunities down. But the most insane part of it is that on December 13, 14, whatever it was, at the very end of that year in their 44th competitive game of the season, they scored 120-minute plus equalizer in extra time of the National League Grand Final, then won a penalty shootout to lift the trophy. Like the fact they can do that at the end of everything they've been through this year is unbelievable. So like I say, not their most glorious, dominant, sort of sweeping everyone aside kind of season by any means, but maybe their most legendary title for that reason.
Speaking of legendary, Sam Cosgrove scored a goal.
So did Afanya Eze.
In the A-League. Auckland FC had a 2-1 win, I think, against Central Coast Mariners, and Wellington Phoenix had a pretty stinky loss, but they were dealing in their kind of 10th centre-back combination. So, I mean, respect to them, but things are a bit iffy for the Wellington Phoenix, and the Wellington Phoenix women also had a narrow loss. But you did have a comparison between Sam Cosgrove and Afanya Eze in the paid section of our newsletter, thenichecache.substack.com. Fascinating comparison. A lot of it is like common sense when you think about how these two strikers play, how they operate. So, what do we have?
Like Cosgrove wins a lot of aerials. Eze's defensive work is better in terms of like tackles and pressing and things like that. Eze gets flagged offside a lot. Like more than any other player in the competition. I was surprised by that. Both of them concede a lot of fouls. They're actually the two players who've given up the most fouls in the league. I think Cosgrove gets a lot of those back. Eze doesn't, and I think Eze from the start I've kind of had an inkling that Eze's not very well treated by the refs. I feel like even on the weekend you saw a few where it's like guys are just grabbing his arm and pulling him back and he's not getting anything for it. But I do think that's a Cosgrove thing as well, of like Cosgrove knows how to sell those. And Eze doesn't, and then he gets frustrated and lashes out and concedes a free kick, you know. But yeah, those kind of like the stylistic things that we know are true of these guys, you can see it in the stats. But I don't know. I'm curious what your takeaways from that are, because I accounted for the fact that each of them plays in a way that probably suits the team that they're in. Cosgrove being the target of crosses, Eze running in behind, those types of things. I struggle to find much to split them between their actual like production, you know.
Like to your point, successful dribbles. Cosgrove has one successful dribble.
Yeah,
Eze has 9. Aerial duels 1. Cosgrove has 49. Eze has 16. The one thing I did find funny was that Eze's committed more fouls, but Cosgrove has more yellow cards. So it's the the flip side of what you were talking about with how they're selling the fouls. Some would say that's the footballing Shakespeare skill set, but this is different because this is the fouls they are committing. So it's like Cosgrove commits less fouls, but he's more likely to get a yellow card. It's all fairly stock standard, but it was fascinating to see it like successful passes. Cosgrove has 81, Eze has 61, but as we'll get into the funky stuff, Cosgrove has 64.8% passing accuracy, which is only slightly more than Eze's 62.2. So Cosgrove's making more passes, but they're not necessarily more accurate. But so let's focus on the Auckland FC win. I'm like, Cosgrove's doing his job. Like, that's all right. I'm chilling out a wee bit. I won't say he's the best header in the A-League, though, which was what the commentators were saying in that game against the Mariners, because he's wide open. Every time you see Cosgrove get a header, there's no one within a meter of him, and he's wide open. It's like he's got those assists. So Cosgrove has 2 assists this season. Eze has 0. Those assists are very useful because he's hitting them back across the box, right? A lot of the time he's wide open. And like, yes, Cosgrove could be the best header in the A-League. I'd like to see him do some headers with guys marking him. That would be nice. Even his goal he scored, he was wide open on the back post, and he does a big diving header, which was fair. Doesn't mean he's a fantastic hitter. Well, you've made this point as well. He's getting great service because Franny de Vries is one of the best players in the A-League, one of the best crossers in the A-League, and thus one of the best assisters in the A-League. And Cosgrove's wide open. So I do want to push back on Cosgrove being like some super duper hitter, target man type of player. A lot of these situations, like, he's just in the box open, and he's only got 4 goals. You know, it's not like he's scoring a goal every time the ball goes into the box. That's the Auckland FC win over the Mariners. I'm still pretty impressed with Lockie Brook. Like, he put in a massive shift. He was playing in the centre attacking midfield role for most of the game. Then they changed it, and he went back to like a wider position, I think, at the end of the game. I think Lockie Brook, and you wrote this in our newsletter, so maybe we can kind of weave in a comparison between Auckland FC and Wellington Phoenix. And you've said on a podcast before, you're not a huge fan of Nadjarine for the Wellington
It's not even
Phoenix.
not being a fan. I just don't. I don't see why he starts every single game or what he's done doing that. You know,
semantics, pedantics.
Yeah, sure.
It's like saying the same thing about Cosgrove. It's not that I'm
Well,
it's not that I hate
the same
him,
thing
but
about Matt Sheridan. So it's like I love
yeah.
Matt Sheridan. I want to support all the Kiwi players that get minutes, but I'm like, he started 30 of the last 33 games for the Phoenix, and they've not won very many of them. You know,
yeah.
There's like 5 of those games have been wins. Don't know.
I think Lachlan Brook's way better than Nadjarine.
He has been, since they moved him into the middle, I think he's been superb. And when he was playing out on the wing, I felt the same way about him as I do about Nadjarine at the moment. It's like, what do they actually do? Like, apart from looking good when they get the ball at their feet, like silky touch, yeah, sweet as, some nice little link-up passes. But are they creating chances? Is that leading to anything? Brook did score a fantastic free kick, and I think that clouded over the fact that all his other shots were just flying off target. Then they moved him into the middle, put Logan Rogerson out wide to stretch the defensive line around him, someone who's going to stay wide and run those straight lines. It's been a bit of a masterstroke from Steve Corica, because he's been unbelievable. In the Derby game, he was fantastic, scored a lovely goal. And then I thought this game on the weekend is the best I've seen him play. He was superb. And he put in the cross for that Cosgrove goal. It was a magnificent cross, great counter-attacking move where because he's playing through the middle, he's able to drift out to the left and combine with, was it Jesse Randall that might have been, or someone else at least, and Randall was the left winger, so that's the logical option, but could have been De Vries playing it, I can't remember exactly, but Brook swings in a perfect cross. And yeah, on the Cosgrove thing, like, De Vries put in 2 magnificent balls for him in the first 20 minutes, and he hits them both straight at the keeper, who makes 2 very good saves, but it's like, you needed 3 hitters from within 10 yards to score 1 goal. It's not like, he might be the best player in the A-League at getting his head onto the ball, but he's not necessarily the best at doing what comes next, because who scored the best header on the weekend out of those 2 import strikers playing for Kiwi teams, it was Fania Eze. His header for the Phoenix was unreal. Like that cross from Roa Conchi, it's a little bit slow, not a lot of power on it, and it's kind of behind him. So he's moving away from goal, shifting his body midair to get the power and the placement he does to put that in the top corner was unreal. Like that was the standout header from those two games. But Cosgrove plays for a winning team. When you're playing for a winning team, everything looks a little bit better. And I think he is starting to figure out the combinations. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when he was struggling before, it was him and Guillermo Mai not linking up at all, even though he did set up a goal for Mai in the derby. That was Mai coming off the bench, and it was one of those Cosgrove nod downs. But playing with someone like Lachlan Brook behind him, playing with runners like Rogerson and Randall, having both of them, one on each side, I think makes a difference as well. So I don't think it's a coincidence Cosgrove has played better these last couple of games because of that. And especially not because Lachlan Brook has been fantastic. Like he's been superb, and particularly against Central Coast, fantastic.
Yeah, I do like the shape around Cosgrove much better than the Phoenix around Eze. Like I prefer Eze, sure, but I prefer the Auckland shape where, as you said, Brook is doing a better job in the Mai type of role. But then you've got Cosgrove, who is trying to be a hold-up man striker, target man striker, with Rogerson and Randall around him, whereas it still seems like anytime the ball gets to Eze, he's by himself.
And absolutely. And this is why he's not getting assists or his numbers of passes are low. It's like, well, who's he going to pass to? Who's he going to assist to? Half his best chances is just kick the ball over the top and let Eze do something crazy, holding it up against two defenders and creating something by himself. Like, and they did bring Corbin Piper in to start. He's now fit enough, and he played 90 minutes in that game, so that helped, I think, having another presence there. Although, unfortunately, the chances kept falling for Piper, who's not as good a finisher as Eze, but that is an improvement. And it was a different look because it was, instead of having one striker and two sort of attacking midfielders behind him, Piper was basically playing alongside Eze. So you had two strikers and one attacking midfielder, except Nazarene doesn't do anything. So you kind of had no attacking midfielder and just your midfielders from deeper, Rufer and Nakasawa, having to make overlapping runs to get up and support. And your wingbacks having to make runs to get up and support, especially Amiento. And then that leaves big gaps behind them. So Newcastle just going bang, bang, bang over the top every time. But there's Auckland FC from day one have looked so structured. And they've been able to adapt that structure in different ways. And here's the latest adaptation is Lachlan Brook playing as the attacking midfielder and looking fantastic, with Rogerson out wide, with Randall out wide, with Cosgrove sort of as the anchor in between them, who they can play off of a little bit, or who at the very least, whether it's deserved or not, and it's probably, it's mostly deserved. I think he's become overrated very quickly, but I also think like there's reasons for that. He is winning a lot of headers. They are targeting him a lot. So whether it's useful, it's at least something that's caused, like it's got a bit of gravitational pull. So he's got a reputation straight away. And we saw that in the Phoenix game more than anything. The Phoenix, the most recent derby, of what Cosgrove's reputation can do to a person when the Phoenix lost their minds and how they decided to handle that threat. That's going to be a fairly common thing, though, because if people are talking about it, like the reputations often outweigh the production, but it doesn't matter, because if that's how you choose to adapt to it, then that's where you send your resources. That's only going to make more room for guys like Jesse Randall, who scored a nice goal himself and needed that one. I think he 5 games without one or something like that. A lot of big chances missed. Really cool to see him get on the board as well, because I do feel like, he's not missing those chances by a lot. He's not shanking all those ones, and he's getting into such good areas that it's like, I don't know, you get 1 or 2, you might just start to see them flow. It's such a confidence game with those things, and he needed a little bit of a confidence booster. I think it was probably weighing on him, so that was a nice one for him to get on the board as well. And yeah, and they're looking decent.
Like Francis de Vries outside of his left foot north-south ball. He's not just whipping in the crosses. He is, we've seen him hit the sideline, straight down the sideline to Jesse Randall, and then we've seen him have an assist using the outside of his left foot as well. Cosgrove, I don't think he'll ever get to this point, but I'm definitely into Callan Elliott now. definitely enjoying his work. Like he's obviously quick. He works hard up and down the right flank, but his like defensive tackles and his defensive involvements are massive. And it's not like he should be starting in any A-League team, I believe. But Sakai came back and got some game time in that win over the Mariners. And Callan Elliott, I think he's just the starting right back at the A-League level, which is going to be fantastic for Auckland because they've got two really good right backs for the A-League level. Obviously, Sakai is pretty much neck level. But I'm warming up to Callan Elliott, and I think he is doing a great job he's done a great job in place of Sakai, and I've seen him impact games with and without the football, getting the football mainly.
Yeah, and if Eze's was the best headed goal of the weekend, Callan Elliott's own goal was the second best. But I'm glad you brought him up because I also thought he had if you scrub off that outrageous kind of goal where he's just unmarked and smashes a header into the top of his own net, just got his angles wrong, it can happen. But if you scratch that out, I thought he had a wonderful game. And I thought that was a wonderful game that builds off of the fact that he's been just fantastic ever since Sakai got injured. And now that Sakai's coming back, probably, he's their best player. He's going to start ahead of Callan Elliott. Just a matter of how much they want to ease him in. Like maybe you give Sakai 30 minutes next week and Elliott plays the first hour, or maybe it's the other way around. Sakai starts, but you sub him off after an hour, so not to overstress him coming back from a muscle injury. I don't know. But Elliott's, he probably already had proven himself last season with plenty of opportunities, but he's gone to another level this year, so he's not going to drop out of the squad. If he drops out of the starting lineup, he's going to continue to get minutes one way or another. And one of the ways you can get him his minutes is that coming up, he was always a winger. He wasn't a fullback. So if you like the Logan Rogerson straight up and down type runs, well, let him do that for 70 minutes till he gets exhausted. Then you can just bring on Callan Elliott to do that. Like you can play him in a more attacking role. And he's a decent enough crosser of the ball. He's not Francis de Vries, but he whips in a good one. But also he combines, he plays the bounce passes, and he'll get to the byline and look for the cutbacks and things like that as well. So I think that's a sneaky one to look out for as Sakai comes back. As Elliott's going to lose some minutes, but he's not going to lose all of them. I think because we're still going to see ways in which they can get him out there, and he's earned that. Like he's deserving of them going out of the box to find ways to get him on the pitch because he's played so well over the last couple months.
The Wellington Phoenix women, they're doing better than the men. They're 9th. Wellington Phoenix men are 11th on the ladder. And Auckland FC in the men's competition are in their, let's call it rightful spot near the top of the A-League ladder because that's the only place they've been throughout their existence. Reading your section of the newsletter, it was another Wellington Phoenix women game in which they were largely the better team, or at least playing some good football away from home against. This one was against Perth, wasn't it? But Melbourne City, they're not the dominant team that they usually are. They're 7th, Perth Glory's 8th, Wellington Phoenix are 9th. So losing isn't ideal against mid-table teams, but you are away. You're only losing by one game, but now we've got a couple games in which they seem to have been the better team and concede a bit of a goofy goal to lose these games. Are you still... the performances, though, suggest that maybe Bev Priestman is doing some good stuff with how they're playing, with how they're performing away from home. They're just not getting the wins. So how do you reflect on the Wellington Phoenix women and where they are at currently? 1 win, 2 draws, 2 losses, 9th out of 11th teams on the A-League ladder.
I think we're at a fairly pivotal little instance with the Bev Priestman era here because they do look pretty good defensively. They've looked very good defensively at other times in other seasons, but they do seem to have a level of consistency there at the moment. They are very close in all of these games, performing pretty well. And they're also banging their head against the same ceiling that they could never get past under Paul Temple or under any other coach, where it's like this just crazy ability to be able to lose games away from home by a single goal all the time, whether they play well or not. They've had a few games in there where they've been, in the last few years where they've been beaten more comfortably. But as I detailed in the newsletter, since the start of 3 seasons ago, since the start of Paul Temple, so 1 season there, 2nd season of Temple, and then the chunk that we've had so far of Bev Priestman, there are 18 instances of the Wellington Phoenix losing away from home by a single goal. There are a few other instances of them losing by more goals, so I'm not necessarily saying these are all of their away defeats. It's not. But 18 of those games, like 18 instances where they've been 1 goal away. During that time, I think they've won 5 away games, maybe. No, 3. Three away wins and a draw in the same time as they've had 18 single goal defeats. Not even counting the games where they've lost by multiple goals, which there's fewer than those, fewer than 18 of those. But I also went and looked at like the XG ratings from those, which aren't necessarily like, that's not the thing you stake your house on, but it is an interesting element of those games. And when you look at the fact that 5 of the last 6 of those, they've had more expected goals than their opponents and yet have lost those games. And the only one in which they didn't was Melbourne City 2 weeks ago. And the only reason they didn't have a higher XG, they had a higher XG throughout that game up until Rebecca Stott scored from close range with like 2 minutes to go. So it was only at the very end where that one got away from them as well. It's like this tendency to keep losing this type of game over and over and over. It's more than just it's not, we can't say tactics. It's spanned over multiple coaches. We can't say it's opponents, because it's all manner of teams. It's not just losing to better teams this way. It's losing to worse teams. It's losing to evenly matched teams. It's just anytime they go to Australia, they don't seem to be able to score the goals to recognize it, because I think only one of those, there's 1 3-2 defeat from February 2024 on that list. Everything else they've scored once or 0 times, which obviously you don't score a goal, you're running a risk of losing 1-0. That can very easily happen. It's happened 2 weeks in a row for them. But the point is, this is the same hurdle that Paul Temple pretty much lost his job over, because like this was the thing that stopped them from making finals, from being competitive, from tallying out points throughout the season in order to make the top 6. His teams could never get over that hump. And now Bev Priestman, very early in her tenure, has run up against the exact same wall. And so now it's like, what can you do? What are you going to do to fix this? I mean, it might just be a mental hurdle at some point. These players don't have the sort of experience or the belief to be able to do this. But like, it doesn't take much to change that. It's the same thing I was saying about Jesse Randall. It's like you score 1, you win one of those games, and suddenly it's like, all right, sweet as. Well, that's how it's done. Those are the margins. Those are the levels we got to perform to. They're so close in these ones. They should have got something out of each of these last 2, but Paul Temple couldn't figure out this conundrum. Bev Priestman, very early on, has already hit the exact same conundrum. So it's like, what's her solutions? What are you going to come up with? How are you going to manage this one? I don't know what it is, but I do know I've watched them be the better side 2 weeks in a row, including hitting the post, including missing some decent chances, including letting Sabitra Bandari shoot every single time she gets the ball, even though it's usually from stupid angles and stuff like that. Elements of Eze about how that approach works, but I think Eze gets into better situations before he shoots generally. And I don't know that there's a lot of great finishers in that Phoenix team. I feel the same about the men's team, because even while we're talking about them getting cut up pretty consistently on the break and transition by Newcastle Jets, which, to be fair, just like, shout out to Newcastle Jets, because they came to Wellington and beat the Phoenix. A few weeks ago, they came to Auckland and beat Auckland FC. They're 1 away against both New Zealand teams, and this is also the Newcastle Jets, whose women's team are coached by Stephen Hoyle, Englishman, but veteran of the New Zealand National League, who have 4 New Zealanders on the books, including an elite who's been excellent for them to start the season. Charlotte Lancaster scored a goal in week 1. I think had a little bit of an injury, but she was back on the bench more recently. Olivia Page has been playing fairly consistently off the bench for them, and Kelly Brown got her first goal of the season on the weekend, won a penalty, took the penalty, scored the penalty. They had a good victory. So the Newcastle Jets have actually been pretty good on the back of, not only, but including the fact that they have 4 New Zealanders on their roster and a very experienced New Zealand football-ish coach. And they've come to New Zealand and beaten both A-League men's teams. The New Zealand Castle Jets, they're doing nice things. But yeah, the Phoenix Blokes missed a lot of chances in their game in the first half. While it was nil, it could have been 3-3 at halftime, and nobody could have complained that it was like not representative. It probably should have been, the fact that the Jets had a little flurry and scored a bunch of goals in a row, that could easily have been the Phoenix if they were capable of putting the ball in the net. Corbin Piper missed a couple chances. Amiento had a couple good shots, probably not enough of them. But there's a similar thing there, right? Where it's like, if you don't take your chances, you leave the door open for the other team to do something. You have to capitalize while you're on top. And the Phoenix men didn't do it on the weekend, and the Phoenix women didn't do it on the weekend, and the Phoenix women, every time they play away, don't do it. There's something about that needs to change,
We'll roll through the rest of the stuff pretty quickly. The Breakers had a loss to Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, who are doing better than the Wellington Phoenix. So shout out to the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Breakers are, be nice if they had some numbers beside these. They're 7th on the ladder, 7-11 this season. But I think more importantly, the Tauranga Whai are Tauihi champions. They defeated the mainland Poakai in the final, which was in Christchurch. What happened in the last NBL final? Was that in Christchurch as well? Like, did someone go to Canterbury and beat Canterbury? Because Canterbury didn't win. They lost their dynasty status with that loss. Well, I don't even know if they made the final. That's who cares? But
I think they did. These things disappear so quickly from my head. But I think that is what happened, is that they hosted the Wellington Saints, beat them, wasn't it? No, Southland were in the final. So Canterbury got knocked out in the semis, I think it was, having been the best team through the regular season, and then the Southland Sharks versus Wellington Saints in the final. Saints won. So, shout out to the Tauranga Whai. Who was their best Kiwi player? Well, that would have to be Emi Shearer, who has come back from a pretty, one of the better college careers that we've seen, and there's been some pretty good ones lately. Obviously not the best, because Charlize Ledger-Walker is back in action at the moment for UCLA, working her way back up to top form again. But Emi Shearer was, a good solid contributor for a few years there in the American college scene. This is either a first or second year out of that. Can't remember if she played Tauihi last year. I think she might have gone to Europe or something like that, or maybe it's just the timings would meant she didn't have a season in between. But she has popped up a little bit in the Tall Ferns ranks over the last 12-18 months, and has had some nice little contributions for them as well. I think she was one of the better players at the Asia Cup, if I remember correctly. And yeah, she had a pretty tidy performance in the final there. It's Tauihi, so there's one of the reasons it's harder to cover, and I just don't like having to repeat myself on this, so I just kind of have to leave it through the keeper sometimes. But too many imports, so you're watching games where it's just the imports are doing everything, and it's harder to get to your Kiwi performance. But the players who had the best Kiwis often, there's plenty of value to be found there. And Emi Shearer, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists in the final. Big stuff. Also on the bench, you had Jade Kirasome, 6 points, Taylor Dalton, 7 points, a couple other Tall Ferns representatives there. So, it's Michaela Cowling and Lena Snyder, a couple of American imports who really dominated the show for Tauranga Whai, took them to be they're the reason that they're the champions. But yeah, some good solid Kiwi performance in and around them. Beaten mainland Pokai, the Christchurch/Canterbury team in the final, who didn't have Ezra McGoldrick. She's missed the last few weeks for, I don't know, personal reasons or something, just unavailable. Big miss for them. But McKenna Dell, 12 points for them. Charlotte Whitaker as well, another player who's starting to pop up pretty regularly for the Tall Ferns. She had 6 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So yeah, some good stuff there from the Kiwis. Interesting aspect of that as well was that the coach of the Pokai was Alex Stojkovic, who coached Tauranga to the title last year. So he won the title with them in 2024 with McKenna Dale in that team as well. He moves to mainland. McKenna Dale goes with him. 1 or 2 other players go with him as well, and then loses to the team that he won with the year before. So it goes. That's the nature of sports for you. But yeah, good final there. It was a the final wasn't even that good. They blew them out in the third quarter. It was a pretty comprehensive win, but mainland were down a couple players, which didn't really help the competitive stakes. But Tauranga Whai, 2 in a row. Maybe they're going to be the next dynasty. I think they only had probably the coaching change was an aspect of that, but I think there are only 3 players. Cowling Snyder and Kirasomi with only 3 players who got minutes in last year's final and this year's final. So a bit of a different roster with a new coach, and they still won. So there you go.
Shout out to Penina Davison. These are for the Kiwis in Tauihi, because as you said, you do prefer a bit of Aotearoa flavour in Tauihi. Penina Davison, Tokomanawa Queens, she led the Kiwis for minutes per game, 33.7 minutes per game, 15.9 points per game. That was also first for Kiwis. Rebounds per game, 10.2, most for Kiwis, but also the most in the whole league. So I think it goes without saying, shout out to Penina Davison, Tall Ferns veteran. Any other just standout Kiwi that you just want to throw a name at us and shout out?
Well, the ones I mentioned who went to the final and played fairly well there, obviously those names. Another interesting one, maybe a couple of the dual nats, the Australian Kiwis who've come in and had good seasons. Talia Tupaia for Northern, just good to see her playing because she's had so many nasty injuries and long-term ones as well over the last 4 or 5 years and hasn't really been able to play a lot consistently. So seeing her second on that minutes per game for Kiwi players list, that's awesome. And Rebecca Pizzi is another one who, as far as anyone knew, was Australian up until about 6 months ago, when she popped up in a Tall Ferns squad. But if you're going to do that, and then you switch allegiances, obviously must have had I think she has a Kiwi parent or something like that, the usual story. You do that, and then off the back of that, you're going and playing in the New Zealand League, and having a solid effort there with 13. Where he's playing for Southern, 13.5 points per game, 2.6 assists for a centre. That's big deals. Must have been up there on the rebounds as well. Yeah, 7.7 rebounds per game. So, nice solidifying stuff there from a freshly minted Tall Ferns player as well.
Beauty. Let's wrap it up with the train and trial players of the Kiwi-NRL variety training with over the summer. The Australian media dropped this every off season, and to me it's relevant because you get some more insight into who the players are who are on the fringe, who are training. Obviously, we don't care about contracts at all because every NRL team is working with far more than 30 players, so who cares about the top 30? But the train and trial list does inform us a wee bit about any cheeky movements that are always under the radar, as well as youngsters or players who have earned a little bit of extra money for their summer training. So the Cowboys have Wiremu Greg, who's returned to the Cowboys after being with the Eels. As I said last week, Wiremu Greg is part of the majority of Cowboys middle forwards recruited from New Zealand who don't really do much. Griffin Neame is the minority. Wiremu Greg is in the majority. He's kind of fallen off the radar and gone back to the Cowboys, where I think he's going to mainly be playing for Townsville in the Queensland Cup. So it'll be interesting to see if he can crack into that Cowboys NRL squad. team. Dolphins, they love Aotearoa. They've got a whole bunch of players we need to know about who aren't on the train and trial list, but in their train and trial contract list, we do have Sang Star Fagota from Auckland. He's a Maris Junior outside back centre who left Auckland, and I think he was aligned with the Roosters while going to school in Queensland, but he is now affiliated with the Dolphins. And they also have Adequix Watts Luke, the son of Isaac Luke. He is in the Dolphins system as well, so watch out for him. Don't think he was affiliated to a rugby league club when they were living in Auckland. The best I could find was that he was playing rugby union for Papatoetoe. Preston Ricky from the Hokianga region, he's moved from the Panthers to the Broncos. Part of that move, he's got a train and trial contract with the Broncos. This is part of the Michael Maguire and the Broncos loving Aotearoa. They have increased their Aotearoa flavour immensely over the last 12 to 18 months, and part of that includes Preston Ricky getting an opportunity with the Broncos. Don't forget about Hayes Perham either, who suffered a season-ending injury early this year, so he didn't play any footy this year. But I think he's going to be. He is part of the Broncos squad, so watch out for him. Titans have Hawaiki Morrison, who was playing at King's College before moving over to the Gold Coast. He is now kind of come out of nowhere to get a train and trial contract with the Titans. They also have Torino Jackson, who is a Zingari Richmond rugby junior from Dunedin. He left to go join the Titans system after impressing in the New Zealand Rugby League pipelines with South Island Rugby League. And I think him and Antonio Verhoeven, who's in the Broncos system, they both made the Queensland under-18 team this year, which I think was their first year in Australia. So watch out for Torino Jackson. He is a middle forward. The only player in the clubs I'm not mentioning don't have any Kiwi-NRL players in their training trial contract list, which does include the Dragons and includes the Sea Eagles as well. The Roosters have Jackson Stewart from Christchurch, Hornby Junior, who he was with the Warriors under-17 team in their first championship. Then he moved to the Roosters. He won the SG Ball Championship this year with the Roosters, but also played Jersey Flegg. So I'm kind of realizing as I say that Jackson Stewart is an under-17 Harold Matthews Cup champion with the Warriors. Then he's an under-19 SG Ball Cup champion with the Roosters. And in the same year, he played under-21s for the Roosters. And now he's got a train and trial contract with the Roosters as an under-19 player. So that shows you how the Roosters are assessing Jackson Stewart's talent coming out of Christchurch. He is primarily a centre, but he also played a lot of fullback for the Roosters this year. The Rabbitohs, they've got Philip Lavakiaho, who is from Wesley College, was with the Roosters. He's moved to the Rabbitohs. We've talked a lot about the Rabbitohs here before. They also have Charlie Poynton and Dean Tauihi, who are from Aotearoa, but I don't have any junior connection to them to Aotearoa. The Bulldogs have Alakalosimi Jones, who is an edge forward, middle forward from St. Paul's College, and they also have Sasaya Alatini Hornby Jr., also from Christchurch, edge forward, who has been grinding away with the Bulldogs for a couple of years now. Very talented edge forward prospect. Tigers, they've got Patrick Herbert returning to NRL footy on a train and trial contract. The Eels have Te Huranui Twiddle, Tauranga Whai Jr. I think this is his second year of train and trial contract status with the Eels. He was their New South Wales Cup fullback last year, did a great job. He is a very talented fullback or number 6, but I'm still fascinated how the Eels fullbacky number 6 situation plays out moving forward, because I love Twiddle, but the Eels are well stocked in that position with guys like Joash Papali'i and Isaiah Iongi as well. The Panthers have Toby Crosby and Patrick Moimoi, so they both left the Warriors, and they didn't have any announcements at the NRL level about their signings, but they do have training trial contracts. So that kind of helps us understand why we don't need to worry about contracts, because they have moved to the Panthers. They are getting paid money in some way, shape, or form. So that's all we need to know about their contract status. We kind of knew they were already in the Panthers' wider NRL mixer. They will definitely be playing a lot in New South Wales Cup next season. Sharks don't have any, Dragons don't have any, Raiders don't have any. Then we get to the Warriors. Kalis Putoko and Brandon Norris both have training trial contracts as outside backs. Kalis Putoko from Tokoroa, Cook Island International. He was a centre number 6 fullback for the Warriors in under-21s this year, but he also played centre at the New South Wales Cup level. He is someone to watch out for as far as outside back depth for the Warriors moving forward. Brandon Norris was a wing centre for the under-21s team this year, and he's someone I'm very interested to see if he does settle into a regular New South Wales Cup role, because I love his talent coming out of Darwin, Northern Territory. Funky thing about Brandon Norris, there was the under-21s epic win against the Tigers last season. That game started with Brandon Norris on the right wing, but he had the game-winning try at the end of an epic comeback at left centre. So that shows his versatility, and Putoko has similar versatility, because for the under-21s he played fullback, centre and number 6, and he played centre for the New South Wales Cup team. Bishop Neal has a training trial deal with the Warriors as well, which is kind of crazy because he's in the same year Bishop Neal played under 17s and has a training trial contract. So that shows you how he is viewed at Mount Smart Stadium as far as a prodigious up-and-coming talent. I don't think there's anyone else who played under 17s this year and has some sort of NRL level contract at the end of the year. So that could forecast that we may see Bishop Neal play New South Wales Cup at some stage this season, next season, but I do think he'll start in under-21s. Geronimo Doyle, very solid reserve grade player who could offer like fullback utility depth for the NRL squad, but his training trials contract status is probably just a reward for everything he's done with the Warriors in recent seasons. Then there's also Natatafu Vake coming out of Rotorua Boys High School. I think he's originally from Tonga. Very powerful centre, maybe edge forward to watch out for, who I think he's still going to be in under-21s, but I think he's actually played New South Wales Cup before, so it'll be interesting to see where he winds up. Then we've also got Harry Inch coming out of Nelson College. Lots of headlines about him. He has a training trial contract with the NRL squad, which, like everyone else in this list, does not mean Harry Inch is going to play NRL. It's just a good way for him to get paid over summer. I expect Harry Inch to start next season in the under-21s team, and first of all, we need to learn what position he's going to play, and then we can assess where he sits in the depth chart, because he's not going to be selected in the halves ahead of Luke Hanson, Jet Cleary, Jai Linane, or Jack Thompson, the Aussie halves. So I don't know if Harry Inch is going to be developed as a half, what position he's going to play, but I expect him to start the season in the under-21s team, and depending on what position he's at, depending on his form, he could be moving up to New South Wales Cup. So the Warriors have 6 players listed in their training trial contracts. Doyle and Putoko have played New South Wales Cup already. Norris and Vake under 21s. Harry Inch is under 21 as well. And then we've got Bishop Neal doing the under 17 NRL training trial contract double this year. Two of them have played New South Wales Cup, but I wouldn't be surprised if all 6 play New South Wales Cup this year as well.
Nice. Old Patrick Herbert is a blast from the past. I looked up his Wikipedia page just quickly, and he's him in a Dragons jersey, running the ball, even though he never actually played first grade for the Dragons, but he was a bit of a star in the in the system for a little while there before I think it's actually the Warriors he moved to and played a bit for them. That's cool. Like seeing those blasts from the past. Is there anyone on that list you'd say of the non-Warriors players who is like people got to know about this guy? Or is it a bit too early to be in their careers?
I think Twiddle would be my number one. I love Twiddle. Twiddle, otherwise known as, I think his full name is Te Huranui Apanui Twiddle. So you might see it written down as, because obviously the Aussies struggle with any name outside the Anglo-Saxon variety. He's otherwise known in Australia as Apa for Apanui, so Apa Twiddle. Again, could be Twiddle. I might be hypocritical there because I might be getting the name wrong. He is someone, I love his talent. He has had a very similar journey with the Eels to Dylan Brown. And if the Eels weren't so well stocked in his role, I'd be very eager to see him play NRL footy soon for the Eels. But now I'm just more curious at how he progresses in that Eels pipeline. Other than him, Jackson Stewart, everything I said about him is amazing coming out of Christchurch. So watch out for him with the Roosters. But then also Torino Jackson. Maybe these 3 players tell the Kiwi-NRL story because Twiddle, he's from the Waikato. Jackson Stewart's from Christchurch. Torino Jackson is from Dunedin. But he is a highly talented junior in that Titans system. So watch out for him. But then also that tells you what's happening in the deep south as far as rugby league talent goes as well. Because the Titans, like some other Australian teams, are recruiting Kiwi-NRL juniors from Dunedin and the surrounding areas. In the last rugby league YouTube video, I talked about a guy named Jacoby Hooper, I think. Let me double check that name. Yes, Jacoby Hooper, who is also from Dunedin, and he is part of the Warriors under-21 squad. Another Zingari Richmond Jr. So shout out Zingari Richmond Rugby Union, because there's a couple of juniors coming from there into the Kiwi-NRL mix, and that's where we will wrap up our podcast. So big up to you, big up to Aotearoa, do your best, have a crack. Even when you're in a situation where you are the 10th best seamer, you can still have a crack, you can still do your best and snare a few wickets, even rocking a headband even. Like, how about that? Just do your best Michael Ray impersonation. Big up to you. Appreciate your eyeballs and eardrums. Kia kaha, stay beautiful. Church.